Hello and welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm your host, Morgan. Today we're going to be talking about eco-bridges or wildlife crossings, and the inspiration for today's video came from a lovely Twitter follower that brought this BBC article to my attention by mentioning me in this tweet right here. I'm not going to read their username out because I'm not sure if they would appreciate that, but I do want to get them the credit for inspiring me to talk about the eco-bridges and wildlife crossings. So without further ado, let's get into this. To summarize this article a little bit before we kind of trudge forward, basically India built a 90-foot bridge made of bamboo, jute, and grass to help small animals such as reptiles and little rodents, things like that, avoid being hit by vehicles on the road. And as of right now, it has become a bit of a tourist stop, which is not necessarily a bad thing because the officials not only hope that as the climbing plants and things that they have planted there begin to kind of take hold, more animals will be attracted to the bridge and use the bridge, but also that because this is becoming a bit of a tourist stop, that it's going to raise awareness for the plight of the small animal. While motorists and tourists will stop for things like large animals, the big cats, elephants, rhinos, things like that that pop up in the road, they don't really stop for the little guys. And this is kind of a big deal, and this is a way to help the small animals get across the roads and not be as harmed by the existence of these roads and not be hit by vehicles as much. But eco-bridges are not unique to India because they pretty much pop up all over the world where roadways and other man-made infrastructure, so railways, canals, blah, 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 fragment the habitats or put wildlife in danger. So in these instances, the wildlife will often be killed by trying to cross these barriers. So this is one of the ways that the agencies in charge try to kind of mitigate it. So let's talk a little bit about one of the more well-known instances of these wildlife crossings, and that's Banff National Park in Canada. So this national park is bisected by the Trans-Canada Highway, and the national park system in Canada has some sort of agreement with university researchers that kind of help put these wildlife crossings in and kind of monitor their use, because we're still kind of understanding how wildlife gets accustomed to and how often these things are used and how things change. So in Banff National Park, there are 24 wildlife crossings. 22 of them are underpasses, so they go under the roadway, and 2 of them are overpasses, so like bridges. And again, they protect the wildlife, but they also protect motorists, because if you're to hit a very large animal, like say a moose, no matter what kind of vehicle you're in, there is a very high likelihood of serious injury or death just because of the mass of the animal. So because they have this agreement with university researchers, the effectiveness of these wildlife crossings has been studied over the past 20 plus years. And some of the things that they've noted is that there have been quite a few large animals recorded using these crossings. There have been grizzly bears, black bears, wolves, coyotes, elk, deer, mountain lions, and moose are all some examples of the animals that use these crossings. So it's not just little animals using them. And another thing they've noted is that the longer these crossings are in place, the more comfortable the wildlife becomes with them and the more accustomed they get to using them. So there is some sort of learning curve, but as more generations of animals pop up with these crossings in existence, the more they already go to use them, the less likely they are to try to cross over the roadway, because even the wildlife populations are noting these as safe places to get over the roads. So that's just one of the areas where these crossings are well known and where they're being studied. And if we move on to other examples, because they're not just in use in India and Canada, like I said, they are kind of worldwide. So in Florida, there are underpasses throughout a couple of counties specifically to protect Florida panthers. The whole Florida panther story is kind of a sad one that we're not going to get into today. But those underpasses were put in place in Florida to try to protect their big cat population. There's also a bunch of underpasses in Southern California. And a lot of the animals seen using them are things like bobcats, gray foxes, mule deer, coyotes, and long-tailed weasels. But something interesting also happens in San Bernardino County, where there are these underpasses that protect desert tortoises. However, the underpasses are actually storm drainage culverts that just kind of go under the freeways and highways. And in San Bernardino County, there have been fences put up next to the roadways to kind of encourage the tortoises to use the culvert and not try to cross the freeway. And there's been success with that because they only have one option to cross, and then that protects the highly endangered desert tortoise. There's these eco-ducts in the Netherlands that were originally put into place to protect European badgers, but there are many other species using them as well. Personally, I think my favorite wildlife crossings are the eco-ducts in the Netherlands because I think they were executed very well, and I do think they're the prettiest. But as more years pass, more vegetation takes hold in these wildlife crossings, and they do get prettier over time. And then in Australia, there's the Salty Creek Wildlife Underpass that was put in to minimize the impact of the Calder Freeway on the wildlife in the area. And then that's an interesting, newer case study for underpasses. So basically what that means is researchers are actually looking at that one a lot to see the impacts that the wildlife crossing is having and looking and recording what animals are using it. And they're seeing wombats, koalas, different reptiles, birds, kangaroos, and many other animals pretty much started using that underpass pretty frequently, almost right away. But there's plenty more examples out there. So we can see that these wildlife crossings are a thing that kind of happens all over the world, wherever protection of wildlife is a concern, wherever these man-made things like roadways kind of fragment the habitats, split them into pieces. But let's kind of talk about the benefits. Let's wrap them up in a neat little bow. So the biggest benefit here, in my view anyway, is that they protect wildlife. They keep the wildlife from being killed by vehicles. They connect those fragmented habitats so that the populations don't become isolated. They're able to spread the genetics to the different populations. And overall, that kind of reduces the impacts of the development on the environment. I mean, it's a little more nuanced than that, but it does. It does reduce the impacts. But it also protects motorists because, like I said before, collisions with large animals can be deadly, even if you are in a car. Specifically, collisions with very large animals like moose. That's probably the easiest example I can come up with. That a lot of times, if there's a high-speed collision with a thing like a moose, they can easily go through windshields. And then it's just unfortunate for everyone involved. And another benefit of these wildlife crossings is that they can look very nice. They are appealing. Again, the ones in the Netherlands, I think they are very pretty. And because they look nice, they're a possible way to safely observe wildlife, especially in areas like the Banff National Park, where ecotourism is already a thing. the more safe places you can have to observe wildlife, the less likely it's going to be that you're going to get the idiots getting tossed into the air and gored by bison and events like that. Because you'll have a nice area to observe these animals in the wild. And I just think that that is inherently a benefit. Now, of course, the only real negative thing to these is that they can be pretty costly to put in, and it does take time to build them, but I do think that the benefits do outweigh the cost because, again, you're protecting wildlife, you're protecting motorists. It is something that does look nice when they're done well. And because it looks nice and offers a possible way to safely observe that wildlife, it can stimulate the local economy, especially if it's already some sort of ecotourism thing. And ecotourism is a pretty nuanced issue. I don't necessarily always agree with it, but that, again, is a video for a different day. I do think that when done responsibly, things like this can only be a good thing, even though that they are kind of costly to put in some cases. Again, the benefits very much outweigh the cons. The pros are so much better than the cons of these because it protects wildlife, it protects the environment, it protects people. And I mean, when you have more nice looking things on roadways in your communities, I can only, this is complete speculation on my part, but it's got to do something good for the mental health of communities. It's got to do something good for those who are traveling on those roads. And again, if we're going to be moving towards a more environmentally friendly future, things like this are necessary. And so, all in all, eco bridges, wildlife crossings, these are these really cool, really helpful things that can be quite attractive and benefit not only wildlife, but people as well. I have linked the BBC article down below, as well as the general Wikipedia page about wildlife crossings that do link you off to more information for any of the things that I've talked about today. That's all I really have for you for this video, but I just think eco bridges and wildlife crossings are cool, man, and I'm in danger of beginning to ramble at this point, so I think that it's time to bid you a wonderful rest of your day. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Do you think wildlife crossings are cool? What are your takes on it? I will see you all in the next one. Thank you again for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell if you would like to see more. And if you'd like to follow me on any of my other social medias, the links are down in the description below. Don't forget to check out thereptilegoth.com for all of my articles and blog posts. If you found any value in this video and you would like to help support the channel, please check out my Patreon page. That link is also in the description down below. And a special thanks goes out to my Diamond Dragon patron, Diane B. What you're doing is really helping me fund a dream here. I will see you guys all in the next one.